Well, hello and welcome to About the Valley. And I got a guest who was here last year. Mark, how would you say your last name?
DerMugrditchian.
DerMugrditchian, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Call him Mark D.
That's it.
He wrote the book that's up there right now, Four Strokes West. And it was a great book. I read it. I read it all in one sitting. It was so good. I just kept reading it. I stayed up late and read the whole thing. And it was about you and two of your friends
Right,
got together and decided to make a trip west on your motorcycles.
right.
I mean, about, what, 18, 19?
Well, we were 25. When
Oh, 25,
two of
okay.
us were 25 and one was 24. And we didn't have any destination and no specific route.
Right.
We zigzagged all over the country.
Yeah. No commitment at the time. You just,
No, right. We quit our jobs,
yeah.
and so we were just gonna go, no plan on coming back.
You were like the two guys on a TV show, Route 66.
Yeah, I think so, yeah,
But they used a Corvette.
right.
You used
Stingray.
Right. And you just took off with no particular place to go, and when you got to a stop, you just stopped.
Right. At the end of the day, we didn't know where we were going to stop. We just drove because we didn't have a route we were taking.
Right.
But we never called ahead for hotel rooms or we didn't have the money for that.
Right.
So we just slept on the ground. At the end of the day, we found a place to either pitch the tent or if it was nice out, we'd just sleep with the sleeping bags.
Yeah, under the stars.
Right. And then just get up the next day and go somewhere else.
Of course, you started out, it was fairly warm,
Yeah.
but then you didn't get settled fast enough, right?
No, we left September 8th, 1976, and we thought it was going to be nice, comfortable weather, but we had a lot of rainy, cold, damp, raw days, and I don't know how I think about it now, thinking, here I am on a motorcycle, getting wet. It gets cold and gets dark at 5 o'clock, and we still kept driving. We drove till like 8 o'clock till we found a place, 9 o'clock, till we found a place where we could kind of bed down for the night and get a little fire going or use our camp stove
Yeah.
to eat something. And,
But you're bedding down, you're probably kind of damp and cold,
right,
and
right.
how do you get warm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times we didn't, but at 25, I guess in the excitement of taking off like that, it didn't bother us.
But in the morning, you don't want to get out of that bag.
No, a lot of times we had a hard time getting out because, once you're warm,
Yeah.
you stayed warm.
You're warm and comfortable, I want to stay here.
Well, there were plenty of times, though, that we'd pitch the tent in a rainstorm.
Whoa.
And then the rain would just be torrential and the wind, and it would drive the rainwater right through into the tent. And a lot of times we'd be sleeping in our sleeping bags, and they were wet. But we didn't, sometimes we'd get up and go somewhere or do something. Other times we just were so tired, we just slept there anyways. And one time, we were in a campground area. It was in Virginia, and we pitched our tent near a little stream. And that stream overflowed and flooded the tent.
Oh,
And we had to get everything out. And I remember went to the restroom area, just concrete building.
yeah.
And we just kind of sat in there or stood in there till the rain stopped, till the sun came up. But yeah, there were a lot of uncomfortable nights, but we did it.
But you didn't get the urge to say, the heck with this, I'm going to go back home?
No, we just kept going. Our friend Tom, one of the third guy, after, I think he had enough by the time we got to San Diego, and it was...
Well, that's still quite a thing. You got
yeah.
quite a way.
Oh, yeah, it was, let's see, September, October, November. By the end of November, he got, I think that was it for him.
Well, you're getting close to the holidays, so you get homesick.
Yeah. He had a girlfriend, my friend Steve and I didn't, so we just kept migrating, and he kind of got homesick. So, it worked out all right.
But then you stayed in California for a while.
Well, when we finally got to we wanted to see California. It wasn't like that's where we had to go. We were all over the place before we got there. We didn't get there till December.
Right.
And then we figured, well, this is as good a place as any to wait out the winter. So we stayed in California for a while.
Now, you were down on the Rio Grande, down in South Texas.
Right.
But you didn't have the immigration problem we got now.
Oh,
Didn't have
yes,
the
they
migraine
did.
problem.
It just wasn't on it wasn't as big as, I mean, what's going on today is shameful because they're
Yeah.
just letting these people charge
They're
across
coming
our
in
border.
in huge numbers.
Yeah,
Back
yeah.
then, they were coming in, you
Right.
saw it.
Right. They
But-
were there, the drugs were there, we got caught up in that, but today
But
what's
it
going
wasn't
on
to the
back-
extent it is now.
No, but when we were there, we were at Big Bend National Park, that's where they're having problems now,
Right.
and we were camping there, and, you
Yeah,
know.
you had an incident where you almost got yourselves killed, right?
Yeah, what happened was, we drove down, we got to the ranger station of the national park. They said the park's closed, so you can't really use the campground or anything. We told them we were from Boston, traveling around, we had no place to stay. And it was a 1 hour ride from the sign to the ranger station, just to get to the ranger station from the border of it. And then, so the
Yeah,
guys
those
were,
are big parks.
oh, huge. And the guy was nice, the ranger was nice. He said, well, if you drive down this dirt road over here, you can go down all the way to the end. You can kind of sleep there for tonight. You know, he didn't want anybody else's boss or anybody seeing that
Right,
he
yeah,
let us
yeah,
in.
he didn't want to see
So
you.
we drove down, and that was almost an hour ride down that dirt road. It was way down there, right next to the Rio Grande River. And it was a moonlit night, so we didn't pitch our tent or anything. We just made something to eat, and we just sat around for a while next to the bikes.
Had
And
to
we
be
rolled
getting
our sleeping
cold.
bag. Yeah, it was cold at night. I mean, we were dressed warm because it was cold, real cold that night. And then all of a sudden, around 8 o'clock, a car comes rolling down the road. And we thought that was kind of, it ended up at a cul-de-sac, like, just like this. The
Right.
dirt road came, and
Yeah, because
so
you-
we were
you-
off the side of it we were kind of sleeping in the
Right.
tumbleweed stuff, just in case, so nobody would see us. And, and so this car comes down, we're thinking, what the heck's the car doing down here? The park's closed.
and
Nobody's
there's
supposed
no
to be.
bridge to cross the river.
Nothing. So we started thinking, that's not normal. So the car comes into the cul-de-sac area and stops. And then all of a sudden, you could hear a horse come galloping up from the river. And he comes to the car, and we're looking through the tumbleweed, and we could see the guy on the horse, you know, starts talking. He was talking in Mexican.
Yeah.
And the guy in the car finally opens his door and says, hey, my boss don't operate like that, whatever else. Then they started having a few words. The guy slammed the car door, and he takes off. And we figured the horse was going to take off, but he didn't. He stood there, and the horse kept plodding the ground. And then, of course, you know, your mind takes off, thinking, oh, he saw us. He's looking around for us. We started to get scared, right? Because this guy had the sombrero on and the gun belts going across his chest, just like in the old Clint Eastwood movies,
Yeah.
right? That he had the gun belts and he's sitting on a horse. And anyways, the horse didn't leave. It seemed like an eternity. I remember I was crouched down. I can't even crouch like that anymore. I was in like a catcher's crouch, right?
Yeah.
But I was there so long, my knees were starting to burn. I was in the bushes, but we didn't want to make a move in case he came over. So
Right.
finally the horse leaves with the guy on it. They leave. And so we packed up our stuff, and that's when we had the little dog with us, our little schnauzer,
Yes.
Schnapps. And the dog starts barking and growling, looking all different directions, and we said, oh, they're surrounding us. You know, they're gonna do. And then we started your mind started racing off. And so what ended up happening is the dog stopped barking, so I packed the dog back into the milk crate on the back of my motorcycle. And Steve got on his bike, I got on my bike, and we got ready to go. And then I said, hey, wait a minute. I said, if Clint Eastwood was here, he wouldn't take off now. He'd go check this out. So my friend said, Steve, he kept saying, let's just go. I said, no, come on, let's go see what's going on over there. So we got off the motorcycles and we walked down this little path. The sand was like white because the moon was shining on it. We got to the river's edge, right at the bank, and it goes down into the river. Just as we got there, some guy steps out from the shadows from underneath a big tree, and I dove into the bushes. But my friend was next to me. I was the closest to the bush, so he couldn't jump in. So I just said, Steve, you just stand there and look like this. Don't say anything. And the guy had this sombrero with the gun belts on his chest, right? and he's going, "Hey, amigo, what's happening, man?" I'll never forget that. He said, "Hey, amigo," he said it 3 times. And I kept saying, "Don't say nothing, don't say nothing." So my friend Steve tried to look as big as he could standing there, and he didn't say anything. What happened was that Mexican guy down there, he got nervous. And he started.
Well, he didn't know if he was
He didn't know if we were
DEA
That's
or
right.
a ranger or
right,
what.
Right. So he started to get nervous, and he circled around and went right back into the shadows. And right then, we saw and heard. First, we heard him. Big herd of horses coming across, like these. And then we saw them. It was like 7 horses coming across the river towards us, right?
Yeah.
To pick him up. And we took off and went to the bikes, and my bike always started a little harder than my friend's. He started first kick all the time. Mine, I had to kick it a few times. This time, mine started first kick, and he's kicking his and it wouldn't start. I said, "Hey, you don't get that bike going now, I'm getting out of here." And it started, and just as we started to get into the cul-de-sac and go up that dirt road, they came right in behind us. And I'm telling you, I could hear them.
There were riders on all the horses?
Yeah, all 7 horses. So they're coming right behind us. And I remember saying, "We can't turn our lights on, because we got to ditch somewhere. We don't even know where we're going.
Right.
We don't want to end up in a dead end or a box canyon or something." And so they would be right behind us. And I only turned around once to look. And I'll never forget, the guy in the front was on a big, sort of a light tan color horse. I can still picture him on that horse, and the sombreros flying in the wind. And we went up, sped up a little bit, went up and dumped the motorcycles into a cul-de-sac, like a gully.
Yeah.
And then we left them right there, and we took off because we saw a campfire in the campground. Wasn't supposed to be anybody there. So we ran towards that campfire, and then they didn't see us do that. And they went right by. And then we figured, well, let's go see who's there. So we walked into this campsite, and there were 5 guys in there, sitting around a campfire. Here we come in pitch black, like 9 o'clock at night. We walk in, and they said, "Hey," and we just said, "Hey, you guys mind if we sit by a fire for a while?" They said, "Oh, no, come on in."
Well, you didn't know who these guys were.
We didn't know who they were. They looked like American guys, but we didn't know who they were, and they had like a Winnebago there. And
so they were probably campers.
Yeah, they weren't campers, but I'll tell you, the funny part of it was, they never even asked, "What the heck, what do you do?" They weren't even worried. Here comes 2 guys coming out of the black, no backpacks, no camping gear, like we're just walking in. They never asked us one question. They said, "Sit down, you want a beer or whatever?" So we had a beer. So we stayed with them till midnight. And then they decided to go to bed. So I remember saying, "Hey, you guys mind if we sleep under your camper tonight?" They said, "Go ahead if you want." They never even said, where the hell you doing? Where's your car? How'd you get here? Where's your gear? They said, "Yeah, you could camp there for the night if you want to sleep under there." So my friend, we just laid on the dirt with rattlesnakes and all kinds of, we laid underneath there, scared to death that those guys were coming back on those horses. We laid underneath there, and right past midnight, I heard ba-bum, bum, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum, right? And I said, "Steve, you hear that?" He says, "Yeah, it's just heat lightning or something. So don't worry about it." I said, "Oh, sure that's..." So next thing you know, all of these guys come running out of their camper, right? And they yelled, "Did you hear that? Did you hear that?" And I remember saying, "Yeah, don't worry about it. It's just heat lightning." They said, "Heat lightning, my ass. That's an M16. You know what these guys were? They were all Vietnam vets. They were back, and they were going around the country having some fun on their own.
Oh.
So they knew what that sounded like.
Yeah.
And they said, what I just told you, that's gunfire coming from Mexico across the border. And they were thinking, oh, God, I hope this doesn't get any worse. And so they went back in, the gunfire stopped. We slept under that mobile home. And then in the morning, the park ranger came. I remember he had like an old Jeep Cherokee, a green one. He came in, said, "You guys got to get out of the park now." And we said, "Well, we got to go get our gear. We don't even know if it's still there, our motorcycles." I left the poor dog right in that case. And, and, um, and these guys had to get their stuff together. He says, no, get in that mobile home and get out now. You have to leave right now. So we ran over to where our bikes were. We found them, we got on them, and we headed out of the park. And we didn't stop driving till we got way out. And we got halfway to El Paso. And by then it was dark again, 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And we had to sleep, so we stopped on the side of the road. There was nothing. This was open, barren land, nothing there.
Desert.
Desert, whatever you want to call it. It was open, barren land, maybe with a street sign once in a while. And so most of the street signs down there have bullet holes in them. Those guys just for target practice drive by and they shoot at them. So I remember saying to my friend Steve, I said, Steve, we can't just lay on the side of the road here. Somebody might just come and pick us off just for the giggles. I said, we got to get into that culvert down there. So we got off the road, went down by the culvert, and we just rolled out our bags, no tent, nothing, because we didn't want to draw attention. And we just slept there like this for the night, right? And I remember where I was, I kept coming up with, there was an awful stench, right? But I was so tired, I finally just fell asleep. I woke up in the morning, I was sleeping next to a dead cow.
Oh,
There was a dead cow there.
was it shot?
No, I don't know what it was. The bones were, it was half rotted
Oh.
away, and it was rotting, and the bones were
Oh,
showing.
okay, so
And
it's probably,
it might have died, or who knows what. It got
Like
hit
a-
by a truck or something.
yeah.
So we packed up, and then we went to El Paso. And when we got to El Paso the next night, it was late. And a lot of times when you're in a city, we can't just roll out our sleeping bags. We did a few times, but the police came and kicked us out.
Right.
Can't pitch your tent because they see that right away. Kick
Well,
us
not
out.
anymore. Today you
Yeah,
can.
I know. You could do anything you want today,
Yeah.
for crying out loud. That's unbelievable. We couldn't pitch our tent anywhere in the city limits of these cities,
Right.
like in a city park or something.
Right.
We weren't hurting anybody. We
No.
weren't going to live there. They came and moved us out. And so, anyways, we would go into a bar. We didn't have much money, so we each buy just one beer and sip on that beer for as long as it took. And then we might be sitting next to you, and all of a sudden you hear us talking. You say, hey, where are you guys from? Or we'd always say we're from Boston, because
Right.
nobody knew.
Right, they don't know what's this.
Milford or Hudson, they didn't know.
Right.
So we're from Boston. What are you doing? Oh, we're just driving around and seeing the country. And, well, where are you sleeping tonight? We don't know yet. We got to find a place where we can roll out our sleeping bags, right? So a lot of times if we were in a bar or a club or something, the person would say, well, you can sleep in my backyard if you want. And a lot of them would say, well, I don't have any extra beds, but if you want, you can sleep on my living room floor. Now, quite a few times, we slept in people's houses
Yeah.
that we never knew.
I know, they didn't know you and you didn't know
They
them.
didn't know, and here's three guys at 25 years old, at the height of their, the testosterone was,
Right.
and then we were as strong as we were ever going to be at 25, right? And they let us into their house.
But the South is like that.
Yeah.
People are very friendly.
Yes, and they let us in, but here we are. We didn't know them either, and I'm sleeping like right here on the living room floor.
Right.
Clean, dirty, whatever it was, we'd sleep there. It was better than getting thrown out, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
We'd get up in the morning quietly and leave. Some of the people that they let us do that, we'd always try to fix something for them. If you needed the door fixed, a window fixed, because I could fix a lot of things. So
Yeah.
we'd fix what we could, or clean their yard, or rake something, leaves for them or something, and say thank you, and then we would leave. I don't even know all those people. I never see them again. I don't even, how many people that happened. That's why I dedicated this book to all the people that
Well,
were
you
nice
think
to
about
us.
their kids are all adults now, and a lot of them are probably passed away.
Yeah, most of them are. I feel bad. I'm going to try this fall, I'm going to leave some time aside. There's some of the people I'm going to try to chase down them, or most likely their descendants. You know what I
Right.
mean? The kids. And I'm
But
going
But you're talking a long ways away. It's not like it's next door.
No, but what I'm going to do is with the internet and stuff, I'd like to,
Right.
like the Mexican family that let us stay there for a week.
Yeah, you were
And
there for a
they
long time,
Yeah,
weren't you?
they were nice to us. The father let us use his car. They had nothing. They had nothing. They had a 4-room house. That's all they had.
Yep.
And 2 bedrooms for 7 kids and two adults. And then and then they had one kitchen, one big room, and a bathroom, and then like a little den that they would sit in. Tiny little place, but they shared all that with us, and they were, so I found the son that we met that told us to go see his parents, and he's like in his 70s, because he was older than us at the time. I think he was 29, so he was 4 years older than us.
Uh-huh.
So I got to quickly get a hold of him while he's still around.
Oh, you found him?
I did. He's down in Houston, Texas. He's got some nice job down there. He's in Houston. I can't call him because every number that's listed doesn't work. So
You found him on the internet?
yeah, Roland Mazzano.
Are you
And-
sure it's him though?
Yeah,
Because
I know. I can remember his face, and it's him
Ah.
because it listed his mother and father that died, and one of his siblings died,
Uh-huh.
and then it listed his sisters and his brothers, and I know them all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to contact them. I'm going to autograph a book and send it to them.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to say, would you please, I'm going to send you money. I'm going to give them maybe $1,000 or something. And I'm going to tell them that I'd like to have him or hire someone to put flowers at his mother and father's grave. As long as that money runs out every year, I want flowers there and have somebody maintain those flowers. I wish that's the only thing that I didn't do that I regret. And it's because when I got back, I got so busy with life.
Right.
Things were going, and, my family, anyways, I wish that I was able to call them and thank them and maybe even go visit them and take them out to a dinner.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And pay them back for their kindness.
Right.
So the only thing I can think of that would be symbolic is if I can put flowers at their, cemetery site.
Yeah, I mean, you were so good to you.
Yeah, and the same thing on the east side of town, the country in Virginia where the guy that owned that apple orchard that hired us to work there,
Yes.
Mr. Wren, I'm going to try to find his family.
Yeah,
I'm
'cause
sure
he must
he's
be
gone.
passed away by
Yeah,
now.
I'm sure he is. And then his foreman, the funny thing was his foreman was 65, right? And then when I was 25, I used to think he was ancient. Now I'd be happy to be 65 now. You know
Yeah,
what
I
I mean?
know.
I'm sitting back saying, geez, that'd be great if I could go get. And so anyways, he was nice to us because he let us stay with him, in his house, old farmhouse, for a week while we worked. And we kept him company. We helped him with food and stuff. And anyways, I'd like to find a way of saying thanks to those people.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I was in the Army with a guy he lives in Middletown, Connecticut. I keep saying we're gonna get together. Well, we never do
Well, you should.
because there's always something coming up.
Time, you got to just do it. You got to make the phone call, pick the date, and just once the date's
Right.
written down, you'll get to
Well,
it.
there were 3 of us that hung out together in the military, and one of them lived in Brooklyn. Well, I did get together with him.
Oh, Brooklyn, Connecticut?
No, Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, okay.
And what happened was my son wanted to go to a Broadway show, and we drove down to New York, and I called him ahead, and he gave me a place to stay in Sheepshead Bay, nice hotel. So I drove over to his house, and we spent the day together in
Nice.
New York. So I got to see him. Then he came up here. He was the head of the lab at SUNY Medical Center in Brooklyn. And he was up here to learn how to operate some equipment they were buying. He gave me a call, and I met with him outside of Boston. We went out and eat.
Oh,
So I went a
good.
couple of times. Then the 3rd time I met with him, when my son graduated from med school, he had the graduation at the Lincoln Center in New York. So I called him up, and and the whole family met with him. So he passed away.
Oh,
He never married, and we used to send Christmas cards to one another. Well, the last time my card came back, so I know he must have passed away. But then the other guy, like I said, we communicate, we're on email together, but we never get to physically. And I keep saying, I was going to go down there a couple of years ago with a friend of mine, and he passed away.
yeah, you don't want to, at our age, you don't want to miss the opportunity. It's worth it. Make the call, make the appointment, and then put it down and say, I got to do this.
We
because-
talk on the phone every now and then.
Yeah, that's good. That's
No.
good.
Well,
I mean,
today, you can communicate much better now. I mean,
Yeah,
get-
you could FaceTime and stuff.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a great situation. I had cousins in Poland that I never knew. And in fact, when I was in the Army, I couldn't get a top secret clearance because of them.
Really?
Yeah, because it was in the height of the Cold War,
Right.
68, 69, 70.
Yeah.
So when my aunt died, I found all these letters that she had written back and forth. So just for the hell of it, I wrote them a letter. And they answered.
Wow.
And then my oldest son, when he was in England, ended up running into one of them. Because he was, his friend lived in England. So this was later now. It's after Poland. Poland. The Cold War ended in the 90s. So now Poland was a free country. They could start moving around. Well, about 3 years ago, they came over here.
Oh, what, to stay or just to visit?
No, to visit. They were here for about a week, and I took them around. So, but here again, that's now we still and they watch this TV show on the internet.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, today it's amazing how much you can communicate. I was in Europe for a year and a half. The only talking I did was through letters.
Yeah, well, that's how we communicated with our family through. We couldn't even afford the letters because that means you had to have paper and an
Yeah.
envelope,
Right.
and the stamp was more money.
Right.
We could get postcards for a nickel that included the stamp.
So you kept
So
it.
we just write on the back of the
Yeah.
postcard and send it off. And I remember what we would do is sometimes if we needed anything, because we would pretty much just took care of ourselves. But our moms liked to send us like a goodie, some
Right.
pastries and stuff, So we'd say, okay, we're going to be in Little Rock, Arkansas in 2 weeks,
Yep.
sometime around there. You could send it to the post office there, and we'll just go pick it up. And we did that quite a few times.
That's amazing what the post office will do that for you.
Yeah, they sent it along. I remember one time my flashlight broke, and my aunts worked in Clinton at Rayovac, so they sent me a flashlight that way.
Yeah.
So, anyways, you find ways of making do.
That's not Railback's gone from Clinton now.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
everything is gone.
It's amazing how things change in the course of 20 years. We got a phone call. I was waiting to see if there was a phone call here.
You get a phone call?
Yeah. Go ahead, caller. You're on.
Hey, good evening, guys. Hey,
Hey, Barry.
Mark, it's Barry. How you doing? How you been?
Good. How are you? I'm all right.
That's great. Hey, I really enjoy all your stories and everything, and I never really knew that about you, what you did on all these stories and everything.
Well,
you got to get his book. His book
Yeah,
is
I know.
great.
I ran into Rod. You know Rod, Harry?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Very well.
And he told me about a story about that Mark and his friends, they went into a bar and they were drinking, or I guess, they had a beer or whatever, and they started dancing with some girls, and the other guys thought they
In
were
New
trying to
Orleans.
steal the girls, and you guys had a jam or something?
oh yeah, that was like I believe that was Tennessee, and
Oh.
we were in a kind of
wasn't it
New Orleans was the pipe and the legs.
Right.
That's, there we were dancing. We'd meet some girls, so we're dancing, and my friend Steve, there was a big guy dancing with somebody, and this guy just kept pushing my friend Steve, and he kept pushing him, stepping on his feet and bumping into him on purpose. And I'm thinking, oh boy, Steve's pretty hard-headed. I don't know how long this is going to last. And then all of a sudden, Steve reached back and cold conked this guy, and then it was turned into a big fight. And then, just like in the movie, the whole place started fighting.
Oh,
and,
geez.
and anyways, what ended up happening was, I got cleared. My other friend Tom got clear when we were in a kind of a fight. And then my friend Steve ended up on the bottom, and some guy was wailing away on him. And I remember running over there, and as the guy raised his arm up, I just grabbed his arm and broke it.
Oh, boy.
And then I just started beating them to, I had to, but you know what? It was one of those things where we weren't in our element, we were out-of-towners, whatever else.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And we had to, I don't know, they could have killed us,
It's
what I-
survival.
Yeah.
Right,
I
right.
mean, we weren't violent guys or anything else, but there were 2 or 3 times, that time, one in New Orleans, one in Texas, where we had to hurt some people and, just to get out of where we were before they hurt us.
Right, right. No. And I like what you said, because, like, if you've been around in the country, I mean, it's all United States, but it's all has different little aspects to it, to the little parts of the country, you know?
Yeah, everywhere is a little different, and they have their own characteristics, and
Right, right.
and we found a lot of nice people in the South and in the Midwest. I mean, they were just nice to us, and we bumped into a few bad dudes. In New Orleans, we bumped into a couple more, and but I'd say if there were 10 people, 8 were great, and just 2, were. There's always bullies somewhere.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's always going to be some Lulus out there, you know?
Yeah. The only thing is, I don't think quite like that now, but back then, I guess maybe because when you're 25 years old, I wasn't afraid of pretty much nothing. And,
Right, right.
And so if somebody started something, I'd jump right in.
Yeah.
And
And then he told me, he said something, you almost drowned in the ocean, and you had like kind of a revelation.
oh yeah, that was in California.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
I was when we were in California, we ended up staying in like this little shack of a motel where all the illegals stayed. That's all we could afford. We got jobs as teachers. We were teaching school then too. We substitute taught. Drove to school on our motorcycles, taught. They gave us our $25, and that was wow. That's good money for
Yeah.
back then. But anyways, so
Oh, yeah, that was a lot of money back then.
some people gave us some used dumbbells and stuff. So I worked out in the room pretty hard,
Yeah.
and then I went on the beach. It's Seal Beach, and I ran for about 2 miles on the beach pretty fast. So I was exhausted. So I knew when I got back to where I started, I said that I'm too tired to go in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And so all I did was basically say, well, I could just stand in knee deep and let my body cool down a little, because it was February. So my body would cool down. I remember all of a sudden hearing this girl yell, "Can you get my football?" So I turned around. It was a split second. I turned around, got the ball that was behind me, and I threw it back to her. And the only person on the beach was her and her boyfriend. And next thing I know, I was in the water. My feet weren't touching the ground, and I didn't realize at first. It happened so fast. Plus, back then, I remember I used to say I thought I was invincible, so nothing could happen to me. And
Oh,
I
yeah,
was
when you're young, you don't think about those things.
and I was a water safety instructor, so I used to teach and certify lifeguards, and so I was a water guy.
Right.
And what ended up happening was I got in a riptide, and I
Yep.
didn't even know I was in it at first. The first few seconds,
Oh.
I was in it, but I'm thinking, nah, it can't be me. I'm too smart to be in a rip current. You know what I mean? So,
Right,
but I
right.
kept trying to put my feet down, and my feet wouldn't touch the darn bottom. And I finally figured out. Then I'm looking at the jetty along a big long jetty that goes way out to sea. I was looking at that, and I said, "Hey, I'm going backwards. I'm in the rip current."
You're going out to sea.
And the problem was, I knew I was too tired to be in the water. My arms
Right,
were
right.
weak. Everything was weak. So, yeah, when I went out, finally when it stopped taking me out, I was so far out, I could hardly see the land. And when I was in between the waves, I couldn't see anything.
Right, so you had a close one.
Yeah, it was a sunny day, and I heard the devil, literally, I'm telling you right now, I heard the devil tell me, just open your mouth, go under the water, open your mouth and relax, and it'll be fine, right?
Wow.
And so I went down, because I felt hopeless, and back then I was too proud to yell for help. I probably would have died first before I yelled for help. So I went under the water. I was about 3 feet down. I'm looking up, and I just got a piece about me. I'm listening to the devil tell me, open your mouth. I started opening my mouth. The water was going in, and then I heard God's voice tell me, close your mouth and go back up. I could see the rays of light coming through the water.
Uh-huh.
And I heard him say, it's not your time. Go
Right,
back
right.
up. So I went back up, I got my wits about me, and then I started using my training, and I swam parallel to the shore best I could. And then I worked my way back in, but I was a goner right there. So
Oh,
God
yeah.
saved my life.
It wasn't your time, you know?
I heard him tell me that. So
Yeah.
I try to tell people that you got to be thankful for
Yep.
everything you can.
Oh, yeah, I know. I had a close one when I was in the service. Have you ever reached out to any of the guys you were with when you on the trip?
Yeah, one guy, Steve, I can't find.
Uh-huh.
And then I did see something on the internet that he's been in trouble a few times.
Oh, yeah,
And then
things happen.
but my friend Tom, I actually last October, I was helping a fella sail a sailboat down to Daytona Beach, and my wife said, you're gonna sail right by where Tom lives.
Mhm.
So I said, hey, maybe I'll call him and we'll come into shore, come into one of the
Right.
it was near Cape Fear, North Carolina there, in the border there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So he lived in Lockport or something, right on that intercoastal. So we went in, we stopped at a marina, and Tom showed up with his wife, and I hadn't seen him in 40 years.
Wow, wow.
Hey, you guys
42
make a trip
years.
together,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you hadn't seen him after that.
yeah. Well, what happened was, we got a job, he got a job. His job took him all over the country.
Right, right.
And,
Yeah, like you said, life keeps you busy, you know?
Yeah, it's too bad, but because he was a great friend of mine.
Yeah,
And so we had dinner. I treated him to dinner, and then we've been in touch by text message and emails, even before that a little bit, and then ever since.
Mm-hmm.
But the other guy you don't have,
Yeah, I can't find him, and who knows? I don't know. He kind of went off the deep end a little, I think.
what was the last time you saw him?
I saw him in 1978 at my. He was going to come help me with my mother's and father's anniversary party. Tom came, and he decided he didn't want to come, and after that, never saw him again.
Well,
Imagine that.
yeah.
Wow.
Now, I didn't grow up with Steve. I only was a friend of his for 4 years. I played football against him. He was. I played for Hudson High School. Imagine that, red and white Hudson Hawks, and he played for Milford High School, red and white Milford Hawks,
Yeah,
and he was the quarterback there. And I played against him, but I didn't really know him. And then he went to UMass, and I went to UMass, and we made good friends with each other while we were at UMass.
you're both on the football team at UMass?
No, we didn't play. I played rugby, and I don't know what he did.
Oh,
I played 3 years of rugby there. Probably shouldn't have, because I got a few aches and pains.
Yeah, rugby's rougher than football.
Yeah,
Wow.
without the pads. But you don't feel it when you're young.
Right.
But I'm feeling a
But
few of
it
those
was definitely a
slams those
different
guys.
world. Remember, Harry, people used to thumb for rides, and people used to pick you up, and they were nice, and it was just a different world back then, you know?
I used to hitchhike home from Fort Dix.
Yeah, it's a
All the way up
different world today.
95.
Now you don't know who, you can't trust people picking people up or
Right.
or whatever, you know?
I hitchhiked on the Autobahn.
Yeah. It's a
It's a
shame.
different world, you know?
It's a shame what's happening to our country right now. Absolute shame.
Oh, it's worse than the Carter years, you know?
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
good. I mean, and then, there's so much hatred going on and so
Yeah.
much violence, and the crime is out of control. I mean, think about it. We never thought, we ran into some bad dudes, but a handful.
Yeah.
We never worried about when we were, I'm telling you right now, when we were sleeping under the stars, anybody could have come to try to take us out. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe we would have fought them, but they could have, but we didn't even think of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Never thought of that.
They take you out before you wake up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
it was a different world and a good
Yeah.
time to be alive in the country, you know?
yeah, well, those were blessings that we had.
Right. Hey, I'll let somebody else call in, and good seeing you, Mark, and I'm glad you're doing well, and I'll see you at town meeting, Harry.
All right, we'll be there.
Okay, stay safe and stay well, guys.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you for the call.
Yeah,
Goodbye,
bye-bye.
Barry. Yeah, today it's so much. I mean, but back then, if you go back further, it was even better.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, during when my father was younger was even better. But, my father had to go through the Great Depression. They had a tough time then. A lot of us, there's periods
Well,
in
in the
everybody.
Depression, a lot of people hopped trains, hitchhike, travel. I mean, you had the great migration from Oklahoma to Southern California, Okies, but kids were taken off from home because there was no money,
The
and
parents couldn't feed them.
couldn't feed them.
Yeah, happened to my father. My father had, so there were 6 kids, 4 girls and 2 boys. So my father told me that his father told him when they were like 16, 17, they had to get out, and he couldn't feed them and the girls.
Right.
And so they joined the CCCs.
Yeah, that was a big factor.
You remember the CCCs?
Well, I don't remember it, but I know of it.
Civilian Conservation
Yes.
Corps. Basically, it was welfare that you worked for.
Right.
That's all it was.
They-
Instead of handing free
there's-
money.
There's remnants of it all over. They built a lot of places.
Yeah,
They go to
bridges, they went up my.
Parks.
Yep, what my father and his brother had to do was, they had to live up in Vermont, way up in the deep woods of Vermont.
Yep.
And logging and cut logging, fire roads in the woods.
And you know, they got a paycheck.
I didn't even go to them.
No, they had to, well, they got a piece of it, but they had to send the rest home.
The government sent it to the house and left them with $2 for whatever it was.
Right, they got a little bit of spending money,
Right.
but the rest of it went to the
Father.
family.
Imagine that?
Yep.
These people today don't have a clue. They get all kinds of money and they don't even have to work for it.
Yeah, that's even worse, isn't it?
Yeah,
Especially with this epidemic thing.
Wow.
Oh my God! I mean,
know.
They wonder why we have people aren't going back to work. Why? They're still getting checks.
yeah, geez. Well, anyways, I mean, I was fortunate to get through that
But-
period of time.
But it was a great experience.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, if I didn't do it then, first I had to quit a job to do it. Because this isn't just a 2-week trip. This isn't a month trip.
No, you're
This
talking-
was an adventure that we had no idea where we were going.
How'd your parents feel about that?
Well, that's funny you asked that question. Our moms were crying. Right, I just
Well,
speak
they're
for
thinking they
my.
may never see you again.
So my mother was crying and didn't want me to go, and my father just said, "Go and be careful, be safe, and come back."
Yep.
He said, "Have a good time, and just be safe."
Yeah, because he understood that he probably felt that way when he was your age.
Right. As a guy, he would love to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So he just said, "Go ahead, go have a good time, and don't do anything stupid, and come back." And my my mom, I'll never forget it. The 3 moms were at my folks' house in Hudson, and they were crying while we were leaving. But the dads all said the same thing. Don't do anything bad, and have a good time and be safe.
Right.
We'll see you when you get back.
I mean, it was a different way again. There was a different world. I mean, my parents never locked the door. We could come at 2:00 in the morning. The door's wide open. I never had a key to the house. Didn't
Yeah.
need one.
Right.
Couldn't do that today.
No. Well, I don't think you'd want to do it today.
No, you wouldn't. My wife locked the door during the day.
Yeah. You just don't know. I mean, even if there's nothing bad going on, you don't want anybody to make a mistake and walk into the wrong house.
Right. But, I mean, back then, nobody locked their doors.
No, I know it. My folks didn't.
Right. You didn't think about it. Didn't lock your car up. People would leave their keys in their car.
Right.
This whole change, so it's too bad. It really is.
Yeah. I feel bad for the young people today because they're not going to experience anything like that.
No, they're not. 'Cause it never comes back.
No. So even though there's nice things today, in this day and age, they're not going to get to experience what we did. And we were fortunate. Even though there were crazy times,
Yep.
nothing like there is now. And people were generally nicer to each other.
You mentioned Tennessee. Tennessee was where you got on national TV, right?
Right.
Yeah, at the football game.
Yeah, matter of fact, the University of Tennessee and Alabama just had a big game and Tennessee won this year.
Yes.
Big game.
Tennessee Volunteers. right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And my folks just couldn't believe that we were there. And just this time, my wife was looking. She said, "Man, that stadium is huge. Over 90-something thousand people there." I said, "I
Oh,
know."
it's huge,
And I was
yeah.
at the top row back then. You couldn't even see the field. They
I
looked
know,
like little midgets on the field.
Yeah, I don't know why anybody, even with binoculars, it's not that great.
No, you can't see anything. All you hear is a roar of the crowd.
Well, I was in a Superdome, and you get up there in those top seats, you cannot see that field.
Right. They look like ants down
Yeah.
there. Yeah. So you pay a lot of money to look down.
Well, then you watch it on the Jumbotron.
Right.
Well, I could do that at home.
Yeah, I know, and go to the refrigerator anytime
Yeah,
you want.
Go to the refrigerator. If I got to go to the toilet, I don't have far to go, and I don't miss that much of the game.
Right, I
You
know.
know?
It's just, I don't know, they're big stadiums. Those college, Midwest, especially Midwest and South, those college
The only advantage
football
is you're
stadiums are
there.
huge.
Like you say, you're there, and you're there with the roar of the crowd and everything.
Yeah. Well, that was part of the dreaming going on, right? So
Right.
before one of the things, we wanted to get on national TV. And the only reason we really wanted to get on national TV.
Let your parents know you're.
So our parents could see us. So we
Yeah.
told our parents, we're gonna let you know when we're gonna get on TV. So you watch it and you'll see that we're okay. That's how we communicated.
Yep.
So when we saw how they were all dressed up in orange and white and all that stuff at the alumni Friday night big get-together, we said, we'll get dressed up in our rain suits, which are orange, and we put Go Vols on white medical tape across the three of us, and High ABC on the back of us, and we had white sneakers, and we marched. The kids got us free tickets to the game, because we couldn't afford to go, but we were in the last seat, last row. So my friend Steve was whining, we're never gonna get on TV, we get dressed up like this for nothing, we're not gonna get on TV. And I said, you're right, up here we're not gonna get on TV. I said, but look down there. I said, see that section over there? That must be the alumni section, because the camera just keeps going like this. We gotta go down there. So after lunch, halftime, we worked down there, and we tried to get onto that area, but the security guard wouldn't let us in. He just wouldn't let us in. And I remember hearing the captain of the cheerleaders, this girl yells up, you guys want to get on TV? Come on down here. And
What a great lucky break.
Yeah, well, that's the way, thinking big and keep dreaming, and your dreams will come true.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden she says, come on, what, that came out of the blue, right? And it's just fate. And so we flew down that set of stairs and over that wall, and we spent the whole second half of that game on the field, flipping the cheerleaders off our shoulders. We were doing cheers. They sent us to the visitors' side, and they gave us a remote mic, and we're yelling, beat Bama, and the people are getting all riled up.
What a great way to get on TV.
Yeah.
Mean, it's not from the stands. You're going to be right out there on the field.
Right, we were right on the field, right in front of the
Yeah.
cameras, and that was great. We had a fun time for one more day there with all those people, and then we had to move on.
Yeah. But then when you get down to Houston, you got to meet Muhammad Ali, right?
Yeah, which was great.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
that,
I play a lot of different sports. I played them all, I was pretty good in sports, nothing great, but
that was another
Ali
lucky
was-
break, right?
yeah, that was one of those things where we kept thinking about it, because after we got on national TV in Tennessee, I told my friends, I said, next we're going to get in the movies. And they said, how are we going to get in the movies? We're never going to make it in the movies. I said, yeah, we'll find a way. I don't know yet how we're going to get in the movies, but we'll get in the movies. And then all of a sudden in Houston, we saw a big crowd at the post office, and we were going to the post office to pick up some stuff.
Yeah.
We told them to send it there. And anyways, we asked why the crowd was there, and they said, oh, they're filming a movie here. And I turned to my friends, and I remember saying, here's where we're going to get in the movies. And I said, what movie are they filming? They said, The Greatest, with Muhammad Ali. And I remember saying, Ali, is he here? He said, yeah, he's right over there. And I looked and I saw him and I thought, because he was a real colorful character. I
Yeah.
mean, there was an athlete and a guy that could talk. He did his fighting. If he said he's going to knock you out in the third round, he did it, And so I said, it'd be cool to ever meet him. Well,
He was more than a fighter, he was an entertainer.
oh yeah, big time. So what ended up happening was, again, they hired us as extras, but they were having a big protest with him in the protest, and of course we were the last ones in, so we're at the back of the protest.
But you get hired as extras, so now you get paid.
Yeah, another $25.
Right, but
Yeah, back then
Yeah,
gas
but-
was cheap, so we went a long way, and we'd go to McDonald's sometimes. We'd get cans of beans,
Right.
eat the beans on the side of the road. But anyway, so we were at the back of the pack with a sign, and again, Tom didn't want to do it because he was a more quiet guy. Steve got in with me, and Steve says, they're not going to see us because the camera's up there where Ali is. I said, that's right, we got to get up to where he is. So after lunch, we fought our way through the crowd, and I remember at the end we were filming the scenes, and I was holding his left arm, and he was holding his right arm.
No kidding.
And my whole, my hand, my arm, right to the side of my face and shoulder got in that movie.
You didn't try to stop you from grabbing him?
No, I was holding his arm.
Yeah.
He didn't, you would have thought.
You think that some security guy would grab you because, he had
No,
to
not then. It was part of the filming of the scene. I don't know. Maybe they weren't worried about us.
Yeah.
And well, you think I was going to end up hurting Ali? I could fight
Well,
pretty
no,
good,
but,
so I wouldn't.
Security guys don't look at it that way.
Yeah, but they didn't. That was part of that whole movie set that they were doing. And we kept filming the same scene. I was holding his arm, and all I kept thinking is, I'm standing next to Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Right? And then at the same time, I'm thinking, hey, he's not that big. You know what I mean? Now, back then, I'd probably say, I bet you I could take him. But you want to know how I knew I wasn't going to take him? Because while he was at the top of the stairs of the post office, some black guy ran up and tried to hit him.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
see?
yeah. So this guy wasn't in the movies. He wasn't an extra. He just came out of the crowd.
Right.
And he said, come on, you think you're so fast? He said, I could take you. So so the police grabbed him. And
Yep.
then I remember Ali saying, well, what do you want? He says, I'm faster than you. I could take you. He says, well, to the two policemen, he said, all right, let him go. And so the guy's over there swinging away at Ali, and all Ali did, this guy is so quick. He just was going like this with his hands. Every time that punch came, no matter where, he just flicked it, and all of a sudden he slapped him right in the face. So fast we couldn't even see it. I can tell you that guy just
He was
stopped.
an amazing fighter.
That guy stopped, and he had his tail between his legs, and he just walked right down from there. And then Ali turned around and he says, I was so fast. He said, I was so fast, I could shut the light off and be in the bed before the room gets dark.
I believe it. No, he was amazing. He was amazing.
Yeah. So that was a fun time, too.
Yeah.
But anyways, we did a lot. There were a lot more episodes. We got to meet Rico Petrocelli's uncle. Stayed
Yeah.
at his house.
Yeah, I
We
know.
never
He had
thought
to
we'd
stay
do
with
that, right? He was a big time third baseman, shortstop in the 67. He was in the 65 to 75 period
Yeah,
for the
he
Boston
was on
Red
the
Sox.
dream team.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
here we are, we're sleeping in Rico Petrocelli's uncle's house.
Yeah. And that was, again, just by accident.
Yep. It just, well, I don't know if it was accident or fate. It just happened.
Yeah, but you talk about it, how you just met him by accident.
Well, we were in San Diego and we were hungry, so we saw this Petrocelli's Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
we
well,
didn't
there's a
have
name
much
that we're
money,
familiar
so
with.
yeah. So we said, let's go in and see what we can get. Probably can't get much, but anyway, so we were there. We got whatever we could, the cheapest meal or something, and we're eating. And Mr. Petrocelli came around. He gave us a little extra. To ask us where we were from, the same old story.
Well,
What
the accent gives you away.
yeah, I probably figured we're from Boston.
Right.
And so, anyways, make a long story short, he said, where you staying? We said, we don't know where we're staying. We got to find a place where we could sleep tonight, or at some park or something. He said, well, you could stay at my house. He said, I don't have any extra beds, but you could sleep on my living room floor. So what do you think we said?
Yeah.
We said, sure, but we didn't know who he was. So we said, yeah, okay, that'd be great. So when we were there, we were getting our bedrolls, the sleeping bags ready to lay out there. My friend Steve said, hey, Mr. Petroselli, you have any relations in Boston? He says, oh, yeah, I do. He said, his name doesn't happen to be Rico, does it? He says, yeah. He said, that's my nephew. And so I'm thinking, here we are in Rico Petroselli's
Was he originally from Boston?
Who?
The uncle.
Yeah, and he's out there.
Yeah, he moved out there.
Yeah,
and
he
opened
was
up a
his, that
restaurant.
was his brother's son.
Yeah,
Imagine that.
yeah.
So
yeah.
anyways, a lot of those kind of things happened and they just fell into place. It made this adventure exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, like I said, you took a job out there for a while, and
Yeah, it was, we got certified to teach and,
you almost wanted to stay, right?
right, I had a job offer to be the director of a YMCA at Huntington Beach. It would have been a dream job for me.
Yeah.
And I loved it out there. It wasn't like it is now. They
Right.
ruined California. But it was great. No flies, no mosquitoes. It was, they had the mountains, the skiing, the ocean. I said, I'd love to live here. And, but we were thinking about our folks, and both Steve and I said, you know, what happens when our folks get older? We won't be around to help them out.
Yeah.
We felt a little guilty about that. So we said, we're gonna have to go home. So he got a job offer, I had a job offer. We turned down the jobs and we stayed one more month. And then in April, we got ready to head out.
Yeah, I mean, it was not unusual for people from the East Coast to end up out there.
No, many people do it. But I felt an obligation of my father, my
Yeah.
mother, my brother to be back here, just to kind of give them a hand, or keep
I'm sure
an
your
eye
mother
on-
was glad you came home.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a good thing. I mean, you know, I'm glad I did, but this book is gonna go on telling this story. And it's
Okay.
really, it's only about the first 100 days out to California. It took
Right.
us 100 days to get to California.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
no trip to California.
No, that's a good way. That's a
Yeah,
good
we
way
went
to
all
find.
over the country.
Yeah.
We just ended up there.
And leaving in September, you know, you're getting there right in the middle of the, well, you at least got there when it was warm.
Yeah, well, we got there in December.
Yeah.
And then we stayed till the spring, and then when the weather was warming up everywhere else, we took the northern, sort of kind of meander the northern way back
Yeah,
home.
that's what the book doesn't show, how you got back home.
Yeah, 'cause I might write another one someday.
But you sold a bike.
Yeah, well, when I came home, Tom sold his out there and flew home. He went by himself
Okay.
there and then went home. Steve, I don't know how long he kept his. I know we all used the bikes from 77 to 78, and then, actually, I got married in 1980. I still
So you
had
drove
one.
the bikes back from California.
Oh, yeah, we had a
Oh,
lot of
Steve.
adventures on the way back.
Oh,
Some
that's
just
the second part of the book.
Yeah, we had some real exciting adventures in Colorado, all over the place.
Yeah, we gotta
New
go.
Mexico.
No, thanks for coming in, Mark. If you can pick it up on Amazon.
Yeah, anywhere. Any distributor has this book now.
Okay, what do you call it?
Barnes and Noble, Book Baby,
Right,
Target,
it's a
Walmart.
good book. I read it all in one sitting. I